evening from London, wrestling fans. I'm your host, Ben Allison, and you are watching Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast, your one-stop shop for professional wrestling, insight, news, and reviews on a daily basis. Today we're talking about all the news in professional wrestling, and there are some really fun topics to get into. But before we do, I need to take a deep breath and introduce today's panel, and let's kick things off with the co-host of the show, Clark Taylor. How are you, Clark?
What's going on, Ben? I'm stoked to be here. Happy Friday, everybody. What a great day. Stoked to be a wrestling fan. Stoked to talk about it. It's going to be a fun day. Let's get into it. We got a lot of good stuff going on today. No spoilers. Not over here at Wrestling Republic. But this is the first of two big shows I'm doing today.
Ooh. And it's also the second of two big shows that have been on our Wrestling Republic today, because earlier today,
shout out.
If you guys haven't checked it out, I've talked about what I consider the show of the summer. Kid Like Us, Luke Jacobs. Check out that video, of course, after Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast. But also joining us on today's Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast, we have Anthony Ricciardi, the head of opinions. How are you?
I'm doing all right. It's been a long week. I always enjoy doing these, and a lot of fun topics today, like you guys were talking about.
Absolutely. No, it is a fun lineup, that is for sure. And last but certainly not least, we have the Tuesday Night Delight on a Friday. What a delight. We have Shad. How are you, Shad?
You're on mute.
You're on... I don't know how he... Yeah.
This is like...
Not
is a
only
continuation
Tuesday...
of yesterday.
Hold up, I got it. I'm good. You can hear me now, right?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Tuesday, I click on this button by accident. My fault. But not only Tuesday, but Monday. Not only Tuesday, but Wednesday. Not only Tuesday, but Thursday. And not only Tuesday, but Friday this week. I don't run from the grind, unlike Will Ospreay. Let's get it.
Oh! Shot! But absolutely, you've been putting in a shift this week. No doubt about it. But... let's get into the opening topic, shall we? Because this is a fun one. Like we said, we have a list of fun topics today, and let's kick things off because this week Chelsea Green was on the Masked Men Wrestling podcast, and she was asked about the potential introduction of an Intercontinental and United States Championship in WWE's women's division, right? And this has divided a lot of people. For me personally, I've been a big supporter of it for a long time. I've said it before and I'll say it again, and I will keep on saying it. If the men have it, then the women deserve it. Why? Because the women have shown that they can draw as much as men can. They have also shown that they can put on the performances that men can. So why shouldn't they have the same opportunities that the men do have? It's a no-brainer to me. I want to see women's mid-card titles, and I also want to see the women's tag team titles stay, because a lot of people have been saying they should replace the tag team titles. I don't want to see that. But Clark, I want to know, what do you want to see?
Ben praises mid-card titles. Okay, so I had to write that down. I didn't expect that one. Not on a day like this. But yeah, I'm 100% in and on the exact same page. The only thing I would do is not name them directly after the IC and the US title. Make them unique titles to the brand, new titles with new lineages, and the history will pay off, not necessarily in the short term out of the gates, unless the building is great. That's the only issue. The booking's got to be awesome, and the storyline's got to be awesome out of the gates. If you're not using kind of the history of the IC or the United States, or like even bringing back like a European championship type of a scenario, I don't really know how you go about this. I think you need new names is my only caveat. Outside of that, I don't know what's taken so long. To me, mid-card women's belts makes more sense than the women's tag belts did out of the gates, because there's depth in the division. In the singles division, there's more depth. And just to put it that simply, that's the way I would go about this, is two unique mid-card titles. It works. We've seen a lot of success with the TBS title. Say what you will, the booking's different. It's not the same as WWE. We've seen quite a bit of success with that title throughout its history. It can work. It can work. And it's all about how it's booked and how we make it work. And then as soon as that history builds, it becomes even better.
Absolutely. I mean, no doubt about it, and I agree with you. Why not give them different names, you know? I feel like if they're the same name, it's kind of a little bit basic. I'm okay with it, but I just think it's a bit lazy. Do them different names, but because of the NXT North American Women's Championship being introduced, I do fear they are going to be the same name. I am going to have to clarify something now, though, Clark, because you brought it up, right? Mid-card titles, I am against them, right? So, realistically, I am against this, right? I am against women's mid-card titles because I'm against men's mid-card titles. But if men are going to have mid-card titles, then so should the women. But in my opinion, nobody should have mid-card titles. They should be banned.
Talk about connecting the dots. That was clean, Ben. I respect that. Okay. Fair.
I'm consistent, if not anything else. But, Shad, I want to get your thoughts on this next. Should they introduce women's mid-card titles on the WWE main roster?
So I'm 50-50 on it, right? And I'll tell you why. I think having a title in the picture is more of a crutch and an excuse for booking, and that kind of tells me that they don't know how to book a women's division and multiple storylines without it circulating around the title, which is very true. I mean, you look at programming on WWE television now, most of the feuds with women are tied to the titles. The Liv Morgan situation, with Bayley, and then these mismatched tag teams that are being positioned like that. Everything circles around the title, and I know in combat sports the title is the king of the hill, but you have other situations where in the men's divisions they do build captivating feuds that don't circle around the title. It doesn't revolve around the title. So in a way it's kind of them being like, yeah, we're kind of lazy, and this is a way to get that. But since that is the case and you have to live with what you're doing, I do like the idea of adding women's mid-card titles. You see the success rate of it on NXT now that we have the North American women's title as well as the NXT Women's Championship. We just had two incredible matches that were around that, and that has success. You look at AEW, right? And I know a lot of people don't like it's supposed to be apples and oranges or whatever between AEW and WWE. AEW is doing a phenomenal job booking their women's division, and they're doing a phenomenal job booking around the women's champions with Mercedes and then with Toni Storm. I think you can do that. You have a lot of great women on Raw and SmackDown that are kind of just hanging, chilling in the weeds. And to my point, I would rather them have those two titles in the tag championships, just because if we're talking numbers, there's not a high volume of tag team competitors that are actual tag team in the women's division. You really just got Katana, Kaden, Isla, and Alba Fire, which honestly you could break them up because both of them are great individual talents. Everything else is kind of a forced mismatched tag team just because they need to get the women to do something. If you have an extra title, you open up the gates and you let women compete for it, create more storylines. Chelsea would be a good incumbent being a Intercontinental or U.S. champion. Dakota Kai, like, you have a lot of great women that don't get the opportunity to be the world champion, but like you can give them that mid-card title and help them build up. So I'm cool with it.
Absolutely. No, I agree with a lot of what you said there. I mean, it leads to a great point as well, because Bayley was on Cody Rhodes' new show this week, right? And it's called What Do You Want to Talk About? Of course it is, right? But yeah, she was a guest on that, and she said the exact same thing. She said that she wants to see more non-title feuds in the women's division, right? Because there's not really any in WWE. I completely agree with that. On the topic of the tag thing that you bring up, I agree again, right? Because there aren't enough tag teams right now. But the reason there aren't enough tag teams is because somebody isn't doing their job at building tag teams. And who is that somebody? He's your head chef, Shad. Shawn Michaels. He's not...
What?
He's gotten rid of the NXT tag team titles. Thrown them out the window.
Wrong.
The two tag teams that I named are from NXT, and that was a decision.
They were from NXT, but nowadays you've got no NXT tag titles.
Did you watch the 5-star tag match on the PLE?
No, he's talking about the women. He's talking about the women's tag team division. Look, that's a call from upper management where they consolidated it with the whole Ronda and Shayna thing. I thought that was dumb. Honestly, the thing is this, right? To your point, if they made a more focal point of making the tag team titles like a rotating title, and letting NXT be a pit stop, like
Yes,
with
which it
Alba,
should be.
with Alba and Isla Dawn, they're not really doing nothing right now. I'll be honest with you. Monday I talked about it on the show. I was like, you know what the weirdest thing is about Damage Control going against Zoe and the new faction with Sonya and all them and Shayna? They're feuding. There's 2 tag teams feuding, and neither of them are champions. Well, your tag team champs are just getting a 1 minute backstage segment. They don't even feel like the tag champs. Y'all just gave them the moment, and that's what I was saying in the pay-per-view.
I mean, my issue, though, with it is that, again, I don't think the answer is remove the titles. I think the answer is improve the booking. Like, I don't think the issue is the title itself. I think the issue is the booking. So instead of, trying to make them... I mean, you mentioned it, Shad, and it's true. At times, they're lazy with the booking of the women's division. Instead of encouraging them to be more lazy, I think we need to encourage them to actually do their job and to start putting pen to paper and looking at the women's division in as much detail as they look at the men's division, right? That's my perspective on it. But, Anthony, I want to get your perspective. What are your thoughts on all this?
Honestly, I think there is no depth in the tag division. They created those tag titles just to say they had them. There was no clear motivation behind them, and there's nothing there. Your TV time is not increasing with the new TV deals. You're getting the same, if not less, because we don't know exactly what Raw is going to be. I don't think you could support the tag titles and a secondary mid-card title. I think the secondary mid-card title is the smarter choice. We've seen the success with Kalani Jordan in NXT. We've seen what AEW's done with the TBS title. I think that's the safe bet to do. You have a limited amount of time to present this talent. To present the tag, unless you're doing a separate brand with just all women's wrestlers, you just can't do it. There's too much going on, and there's too much big name talent that you need to get on that 3-hour show, that 2-hour show, whatever it is. You can't support 2 separate. You can't. It's just not possible to get an audience to care about all these champions and all these feuds. It's just not possible with that many titles going on. AEW's got that problem. WWE has that problem now. So if you're adding more titles to the mix, it's not supposed to be participation trophies. They're supposed to make people. If everyone has one, they have no value. And therefore, the champion doesn't matter. They need to be of value. So if you're doing a mid-card title, I think the roster is definitely deep enough to support mid-card titles on Raw and SmackDown, whether they're the Intercontinental in the US, whatever they're doing. I think that's the smart move. The tag titles, it's never worked. No one's ever cared. And WWE hasn't cared, and the fans really haven't truly cared. So at this point, just call it a day. Get rid of those. Just do the mid-cards.
My rebuttal to that is, should we also get rid of the men's tag team ones then?
Listen,
yes.
They need to be able to support them. That's my concern. The men's tag titles have mattered at different points. The women's tag titles, the biggest claim to fame to that was that Sasha and Naomi walked out of the company. Other than that,
I mean, you're not wrong about that. You're not wrong about that.
No one's cared.
True. I'm like, ask Mercedes.
Yeah, I mean, she went to AEW and got 2 belts, different belts, also of same value at the moment. But still.
We got Pappy Krillin in the comments who's saying they already have 2 world titles. Well, the men have 2 world titles. They have 2 mid-card titles. They have 2 sets of tag team belts. I mean, like, come on. Like, this is the thing I don't understand, though.
It's always tough to start one with they. That's always a bad look.
Here's the tough part. There's a perception of the audience that still, unfortunately, looks at the women's matches and they leave the stands. I saw that firsthand at WrestleMania 40. Before Bayley's match, there were, so many people were getting up, leaving the stands. I thought the show was over. Because it's a shame, but it's true. There is a perception in the audience that just doesn't accept or don't look at them the same way.
But the segment numbers don't reflect that. That's what's fascinating, because in WWE, a lot of weeks, the highest rated segments are women's segments. Like, the TV ratings are not reflecting that. Whereas in AEW, they do reflect that. But I think that's a bigger issue, because I feel like, because the gap is closing in AEW now, but I felt the issue with them is that, they've not given the women enough of a showcase to make them the division matter and to make them draws. But WWE have overall, and it's showing in the TV ratings.
My feeling is, though, if you're not getting behind it, whether the tag titles, whatever, if you're not really getting behind it and you're having it just to say you have it, you're doing a disservice to the women, because you're not.
No, I agree with that.
You're not giving the effort behind it, and they haven't given the effort to the tag titles. So my thought is, get rid of it. If you really, truly want to get behind it and you're going to put teams and you're going to put an emphasis behind it, you can always bring them back down the road. But there's no point in having them if they're just coasters. Like, they're not, they're just there.
And a lot of people over on Instagram are asking me, they're saying to me, because I agree with you, Anthony, right? But a lot of people are asking me, so how would I do it, right? We got Lord Virus of Nurgle, shout out to you. He's saying, so how would I do it? We have Pappy Krillin, who's saying there aren't enough relevant women for it. Well, I can actually answer both these at the same time. The way in which I would do it is very simply, to be honest with you, get rid of the men's mid-card titles and don't introduce them in the women's division, and spend the time from the men's mid-card titles and put that time instead into the women's tag team division or something like that, right? Because I feel like
I'm sorry. Did that Gunther run and the match at 40?
No, Anthony. I like that, but the fact of the matter is, we have to give
title.
It is, but we have to give the women equal time, right? It's only fair. That's my point.
Get rid of the tag titles.
We could get rid of the tag titles too. We could get rid of tag team wrestling.
Get rid of the women's tag titles, because you're not getting behind it.
That's not fair, because then we're giving the women less tag titles. The fact of the matter is, currently, it's 80-20 the men. So we need to get rid of 30% of the men's TV time and give it to the women, right? We can't just increase the TV time magically.
That's the problem.
The point, though, I think what y'all are trying to also say is that if you will leave, it's more so like we're talking about with the booking. I think there's more compelling booking with individual single stars rather than tag teams, because there's not.
That's true. That is true.
Like, there's not like. Look, man, I ain't here to sugarcoat nothing. The booking for the tag team has been trashed since the existence of the title. Like, Sasha and Bailey getting it was cool. They made it cool because they was running it during the pandemic. After that, all these makeshift tag teams. Shayna Baszler has won that tag championship with everybody. She about to win it with me next year.
That's true.
All right. I was just taking notes. I wrote down Ben anti-merch. Let's get rid of the men's mid-card titles. Ben, definitively anti-merch.
So essentially, Gunther's whole reign was worthless, according to Ben.
No. That's not what I'm saying, right? My point of the matter, right, is the fact that we need to give more time to the women's division, and the only way we can do that is by giving less to the men. That's the only possible way of doing it. So, in order for that to happen, we potentially, we don't have to get rid of the mid-card titles, right? But what it will mean is then there's less feuds which aren't for titles. And I don't like mid-card titles, I've said it before, unless they have a stipulation attached to them, right? We've got, I agree with this point from Supreme Chris 28, who's saying they have to put more matches in the women's division. And I agree, we don't see enough women's matches. And they don't get enough TV time.
And
that is why they deserve more time.
Not to steal the best UK slang that I know, but I'm just winding you up, Ben, just so you know, by the way. I want you to know.
So do you think Ben would be able to get that full explanation of why he doesn't like mid-card titles out before Gunther chopped them? I'm just curious.
Well, we might have to. We might have to indeed. I might have to tag Gunther in it. Well, he's obsessed with the World one now. He'll be fine, but let's move on. Let's move on and let's talk about the women's division in AEW, because Nikki Garcia this week had Britt Baker on her podcast, and she said to Britt Baker, "Hey Britt, I'd come out of retirement for you. I want to wrestle you in AEW." And Britt was like, "That sounds fun. Let's do this." So, should they do it, Clark? That's what I want to find out of you.
The answer is, and it lies in a gimmick held by her brother-in-law, Bryan Danielson, it's yes, yes, yes. What are we talking about here? I spent the whole pandemic. I ran out of stuff to watch. I watched all of Total Divas and Total Bellas. And Nikki Bella is one of the most underrated WWE superstars of all time. She did a heck of a lot for that women's division that gets overlooked. She was the powerhouse, the talented wrestler, and that is no knock on Brie. Brie Bella is an outstanding wrestler in her own right, and she's charismatic as well. But what Nikki did as a crossover star between the reality show and her in-ring work, on top of the neck surgery she had, the same as one Adam Copeland, to have a swan song against somebody the caliber of Britt Baker is worth it every day. Sign me up on the dotted line. Why in the world not? Who would that hurt? Nobody. If Nikki Bella is cleared and or Nicole Garcia is cleared and healthy to wrestle DMD Britt Baker in AEW on a pay-per-view, I'm in 1,000% every time.
Fair enough. I mean, I have an interesting perspective on this, right? I'm going to say something slightly controversial. If it's a full-time run, I don't want to see it. And the reason I don't want to see it is I'm not entirely sure. And I'd love to be proven wrong, right? I'd love to be proven wrong. I'm not entirely sure Nikki Bella could keep up with that women's division in AEW because they're so young, they're so talented. I'm just not sure if when she's been away for so long, right? I'm just not entirely sure. But as a one-off, to your point, a one-off retirement match, why on earth wouldn't AEW do it?
Yes,
she's a draw.
Really cool swan song. And like, it's a really, really good on the other end, because they both have stories. So you almost don't have to go over the top heel face. You don't have to tell a crazy story. It's more of like I view it closer to MMA where it's like a put it on the poster match.
Yeah. No,
right?
it's a one-off.
We're going to give each other our best this one time. And then it's right. That will be something that I would totally be excited to see.
Absolutely. No, I do agree. As long as it's a one-off, I'm 1,000% for it. Because I don't think as a one-off it could do any harm. It'll bring in some viewers.
Right. And that's the way I picture it. I don't think also her neck injury and at her age and given all of that, and that's no knock, right? I'm not never want to say that like no, but just she's that recovery is really difficult and obviously as a mother as well on top of that with those type of obligations, she's in the entertainment industry. A one-off makes a ton of sense. And knowing Nikki Bella and what she represents and what she's about, I would imagine she would be fully prepped for one match and they would put on a heck of a match and it'd be worth watching 100%.
Absolutely. And just to be clear, Nikki, if you are watching this right now, I want you to prove me wrong. If you say, hey, I want to go to AEW, I want a full-time run,
agree.
Go there, prove me wrong. Prove me wrong.
With the fuse, but look, crystal clear is in the comments, but with a fused neck, and so that's different, is what I would say.
No, it is very different. But as a one-off, I agree with you. I do agree with you. We got Crystal Claire disagrees with us, but says that she is 40. I mean, she can
40 with a fused
go.
neck is different than 40 with a healthy neck, right? Like that is such an impossible injury to recover from, and the fear of paralysis, it will always exist. Will always exist, no matter what you do physically from here on out as a performer.
Exactly. Yeah.
And
it's very, very true.
Her toughness and level of resilience is off the charts and should not go without being commended because she does not get enough credit for that.
Yeah. And she's also extremely successful outside of wrestling as well, right? She is a businesswoman. Her businesses have had huge success, right? So I think she'd probably be too busy for a full-time AEW run anyway. Absolutely. But a one-off, I'm in for it. Absolutely. Number one Superfly says that if she went to AEW, her run would only last a few months before she disappears and then goes on social media complaining about not getting TV time. Oh, gosh. I mean, I don't disagree, but I don't think that she'd go... I mean, surely they'd know that. It's a stacked women's division, right? That's like, the situation.
What would happen in like a fantasy booking video game where it'd be like, oh, Nikki Bella is upset about TV time. Like, no, that's not how it's going to go down.
Yeah, it's Chris Jericho's taking it all. I heard TV time with Chris Jericho.
Yeah, he's the one taking up all the minutes.
Yeah. Hey guys! But hey Shad, we need to talk about, actually before we do need to do that. Hi guys, I also need to say hi guys to our good friends over at Next Level, right? Because I need to talk about Next Level for just a second. In case you guys don't know what Next Level is, basically they've gotten all our social media links and they've chucked them in all in one place, and that one place is nxconnect.me/Wrestling Republic to see all our content across all platforms linked all in one place. But also, if you go to that link, if you download their app, within the app, the Next Level app, there is a special wrestling app within the app, right? And this wrestling app is just for wrestling fans, wrestling content creators. There's a thriving community on there, and it is a lot of fun. To go there, all you need to do is go to nxconnect.me/Wrestling Republic, and you can download the app and see all our links for all our social medias on there as well. But let's get back to the show, shall we? Because Shad, I need to bring you in because I need to talk to you about Evolution 2. Because also on that interview we talked about earlier, Cody Rhodes, he put on his tie clip and he said, "So Bayley, what do you want to talk about?" And she said Evolution 2. She wants Evolution 2, but Shad, do you?
Yeah, I do want Evolution 2. I think it is a better time for women's wrestling now than it was in 2018. I think that time frame from like that 2016, 2018, 2019 frame, women's wrestling started to thrive. You saw the four horsewomen come in place. You had young people in NXT like an EO come into place. Shayna, like you had as well as a lot of the divas that were part of it. But now, like, I don't even think you need to hit that well of trying to fill out the card with old wrestlers that may be on Legends deals and stuff like that, or maybe we'll just do one-offs. I think you have a very fruitful roster on SmackDown, Raw, and NXT. I think you can really create a crazy card with all the women that you have on it, and I think, like we were talking about it earlier, I think the likelihood of this evolution compared to the last one would be night and day. I think this one could hit it out the park because I think you have a lot of superstar women on the roster that are draws. Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan, you see week by week what the numbers are doing. Bailey, Bianca Belair, Jade, the list goes on and on and on. And Tiffany Stratton, like you have so many women that can really sell out the arena and sign people up to want to watch it. And how about this? If we're talking about these mid card titles, this is a perfect pay per view and way to introduce the mid card titles, right? You make it something worth watching. You get inaugural champions, right? You get all the titles on defense. You can create storylines. You can do so much with it, right? Like it's a blank canvas that can be painted to a beautiful mural with all the embarrassment of riches you have. You have both NXT women's titles that you can put on it. It could be like a night of champions for women's wrestling, and I think it'd be a great idea. It's such a progression of where we are in this sport. We still got a lot of steps to go, right, before we can make it 50-50, but for what it was back then, even in 2018 to where it is now, I think it would be an incredible idea to do.
I absolutely agree, and so does numero one Superfly, who believes that they should invite the TNA women's roster as well. And Bailey said the same thing. She said Raw, SmackDown, NXT, and TNA. And I love your idea, Shad. Have all title matches.
Yeah, man, you could have the knockouts. You could literally have the Intercontinental, U.S. knockouts, North American, NXT Women's Title, both like 8 match card, all titles. Like I don't.
Two
If
nights.
you can make it 2 nights if you want to, you know how they do it, right? You could even throw like a battle royal in there too, like
Yeah.
you could be really creative with it. I feel like if they really wanted to put the time and effort, and the other thing is this: WWE is they do so many pay-per-views, and like there's this off season in the fall where there's open slots of pay-per-views you can kind of just throw over in there. Perfect opportunity, man. Let's get it done.
Absolutely. No, I really do hope you are right, Shard.
And shout outs to Bailey, by the way. That woman is like one of the
Yes.
greatest
Bay Area.
one of the greatest people for women's
By the
wrestling.
way, I meant to say this too. Shout out Bailey, because you're right. But like, dude, how have we not done Bay Area Bailey? She's from the Bay Area, and it's Bailey with a Y.
I'm surprised you're still a fan of her, Clark, after she's gone on Cody Rhodes' podcast.
Sorry, Bailey.
Dude, I'm a
with your
hyphy
least
fan.
favorite catchphrase.
They didn't even talk about what she wanted to talk about.
No,
I
it
mean,
was what you
I don't
wanted to
blame
talk
her.
about.
She's going to be a guest, right? If he has me on, they're probably not going to talk about what I want to talk about.
I think
Ask me
he
a bunch
did
of
bring
questions
up
that he
Evolution
wants to
too,
talk
actually.
about. That's the gimmick. That's the lie. He brings you in. It's what do you want to talk about, and then he talks about whatever he wants.
But what I want to talk about right now is Edge, because Finn Balor did an interview this week, right? And this was very simply fascinating. I can't remember who the interview was with, but I'll say it at the end of the segment. I'll look it up in a minute now. But basically, Finn Balor revealed that originally the plan for NXT UK Dublin, right, in 2020, so in April of 2020, right before it was meant to be right after the pandemic hit. It was meant to be Edge versus Balor in NXT UK, an NXT UK takeover, and this would have been one of Edge's first singles matches back. It seems absolutely crazy to me, and I don't understand how on earth this was the plan. I think everyone thought Gunther was the plan, but then Balor said that Gunther was the last minute backup plan, but then they went in a different direction again because obviously the pandemic hit. I mean, I just can't get my head around it. Why on earth would it have been Balor versus Edge in an NXT UK takeover in Dublin, in not a small arena, but it wasn't a big one? Anthony, I want to get your perspective on this.
Oh, that was that fun, naive time where we thought the pandemic was only going to be 2 weeks long. Honestly, when you think about it, because I had to look it up when you said this was the topic, because I'm like, all right, I don't really know much to say on this. But looking at it, time frame wise, Edge had just come back at the 2020 Royal Rumble. That was his return after 9 years away. So if he's facing Finn in at this NXT show, which was supposed to be in April, correct? I am correct. It was in April.
Yeah,
show?
sorry. Yeah, you are.
Oh, yeah.
You are. And by the way, as well, just to jump in quickly, what's the story the interview was with?
Yeah. So, when you're looking at that, he's coming in at the Rumble. He's going to feud with Orton. Finn would be the first person he'd be feuding with that he had no history with. And obviously, when Edge came back, after being 9 years being forced on the shelf, thought his career was over, there are people that he wanted to work with because he didn't know how many he would have left. So Finn was probably at the top of that list. Now, from WWE's perspective, it was, we need to sell a show. And if we're selling an NXT show, Edge is the name. Edge is a name that would sell tickets. And I think that's the only reason why they would have booked it to do it there, would be my guess. My only guess is to sell tickets, to get an interest in the show. And obviously it was somebody that was on Edge's list of somebody he wanted to fight. And obviously Finn would probably want to face him because that was somebody that he, grew up watching. And we saw they eventually did do it. Three of us were at 39 for Edge's, presumably last WrestleMania against Finn. So there's obviously, they eventually got there, but to do it then, it probably would have been a big deal because, like I said, it would have been his first feud with somebody new. And it would have been right after he shockingly came back. That would be my only guess to sell tickets.
Yeah, I mean, the event pretty much sold out instantly too, so that's part of the reason why I didn't get it, but I think you are right. I think this must have been something which Edge was pushing for so heavily. He must have been like, I'm back now, I'm cleared. After WrestleMania, I'll do the big match at WrestleMania, but straight away afterwards, I'm going to NXT, I'm going to all the brands, I want to wrestle all these guys, and perhaps, the pandemic hit, he also got injured, maybe he reevaluated, or maybe even after he returned from injury, he pushed for a similar thing too, and maybe they said to him, hey, nope, you're getting on now, you're getting injured clearly, we don't want to risk you on these smaller shows. And perhaps that's one of the reasons why he left AEW, but I want to hear Edge's perspective on this.
Mm-hmm. No,
It
I mean
really would be
that's the thing. It's the first we've heard of it. So,
Yeah.
you know, which is kind of odd that this is the first time we're hearing that this was supposed to happen after all these years, and he's
Yeah.
gone. So it really makes no sense even bringing it up now.
And it was so casual. Like, Finn Balor dropped it as if everybody knew. And, like, we were like, what? Like, what? Like, that makes no sense whatsoever.
The
And by
one
the way-
thing the dirt sheets didn't leak.
The irony of Balor replacing Edge as the leader of the Judgment Day on top
Well, that
of
was way
one.
after, but yeah.
No, but that's my point is like, it's so funny. It's like, so we have the match at 39 that Anthony mentioned. We've got that instance. And then it was like, wait a minute, he's going to go over to the UK. Let's say there are crowds, but like what? They're going to do it in a gym?
Well, it's not a gym. I think it was like about 8,000 people, right? It wasn't tiny. But it was also, you know.
It is by American standards.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
That's
not a
what I
big
mean.
crowd.
No, exactly, right? But anyway, let's talk about the big weekend of professional wrestling we have. Let's kick things off. I'm basically going to go through this weekend in wrestling, what's scheduled for it, and there's only really two things, and break it down, and then I'll ask the panel what they're most excited for. Let's kick things off by talking about what's announced for tonight's episode of SmackDown. Firstly, we're going to hear from Solo Sikoa after, of course, he pinned the WWE Champion Cody Rhodes at Money in the Bank. Tiffany Stratton will be celebrating her Money in the Bank victory, and we're going to have the unlikely duo of Baron Corbin and Apollo Crews teaming up to take on Angel Garza and Berto of Legado del Fantasma. And also, we're going to have Michin taking on the number one contender for the WWE Women's Championship, Nia Jax, as well. But tomorrow we have a very interesting matchup over in Japan. Pro Wrestling Noah, AJ Styles versus Marufuji. I am excited for that one, and that is personally what I am most excited for this weekend. But Anthony, I'll kick things off with you. What are you most hyped for?
I mean, I am very curious to see the next chapter in the never-ending Bloodline story. I am curious to see where that goes. I do think it's a missed opportunity that I like the WWE's doing the partnerships with the promotions, TNA and Noah and so on and so forth. But those matches, they should stream those on Peacock or the network, whatever you want to call it. Just that match, like just stream that match because fans want to see it, and quite frankly, most people don't even know where to check it out. You know what I mean? Like it's not not on a regular one that most fans even go to. So that would be my only thing. I mean, obviously, I do want to see it, and I will find a way to see it. But it's going to be a fun weekend. As we're continuing this every weekend, there's something going on in wrestling, which I love as a fan.
Absolutely. It truly is a stacked month for professional wrestling. And yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I do kind of understand it because, of course, for Noah's sake, they want to, have people go into their streaming service, so it's beneficial. But
I'm not saying do it live. If you don't want to do it live, at least do it after. Because I know TNA used to do that, where when they had people in the Super Junior tournament, they added it to their streaming service, that particular match, for fans to go and check it out. I'm not saying you don't necessarily have to do it live, but at least pop it on there, or at least pop it on YouTube, whatever, after the fact, so that fans could see it.
Yeah, no, I'd like to think they would, but who knows? Maybe they won't because like commentary or something like that. But they've got independent commentators and stuff on the network already. You are right. Hopefully they do it on demand on there.
They got that Vault channel now.
Yeah, well, the other thing is, like, they've done in the past. I remember they did it on a Chris Benoit DVD. They did a career one, and they had his matches. They had a couple of matches from New Japan. And they had Michael Cole and maybe somebody else overdub the commentary. Wow. So I mean, they could do it for those particular matches if that's what they want to do.
No, I mean that would be very interesting. I mean, Shad, what are you most excited for heading into this weekend in the crazy world of professional wrestling?
The event you did not even mention, Marigold. What? I am excited.
Oh,
Marigold is this weekend, I believe. Tomorrow, There is two matches I am super excited for. You could fact check it while I say it, by the way. But I believe I saw that Io Sky had the press conference yesterday as well. We are gonna get Io Sky versus Utami Hayashishita, and that is going to be a phenomenal match. I am super excited to see those two women face off. I think it's gonna be a remarkable match. It's gonna be one that is a dream match in a lot of ways. Io being a big time player in Stardom. She leaves, Utami comes up. Utami, having it be a dream match for her. I'm super stoked for that. But I'm very, very excited for Saray versus Julia. I think Julia is one of the most talented women's wrestlers out there. She's really, really like one of the hardest hitting strikers out there, and been having an incredible year in Saray. This is a woman I really, really enjoyed coming in when she came into NXT. Prior to it, WWE dropped the ball for her. They fumbled her. I think Vince McMahon running that was not fair to her because they put her in a bad position, stereotypical gimmicks that were trash during that 2.0 era. But her coming back to Japan, really having a crazy year, having phenomenal matches, and I think her and Julia might be match of the year if they do what I expect them to do. So I'm excited for it, man. I picked all women's topics today too, bruh. Salute to me.
Absolutely. I mean, I am disappointed in myself for not knowing that was tomorrow. I mean, I will blame it, or I'll blame it on Cage Match, actually. I'm doing a Tony Khan, but I'm blaming it on it. It's for some reason it's not on there, on the upcoming shows, because when I do the wrestling schedule, I check through that. Anyway, I'm hyped for it. Absolutely. I might have to agree with you. I might actually be more interested in that card than Styles Marufuji, because that's a dream match, but they're both getting on a bit. Marigold show, it is absolutely stacked. But Clark, I want to know what your thing you're most excited for is this weekend in wrestling.
Honest to goodness, I have to shout out Shad because I'm really glad he did not pick my pick because time-wise, it's Tiffy time. It's Tiffy in the bank. We thought we had Yeet in the bank, and that would have been cute and all. This is Tiffy in the bank. Whatever happens on Friday night, this evening, it matters because it's Tiffy time. We've got timeless Tony Storm, but this is Tiffy's times now. She's in the present. Carrying that briefcase can do it honor, a gimmick that we heavily criticized going in and out of the PLE. Tiffany Stratton can do right by this briefcase in a way we have not seen in a long time on either the men's or women's side. And I think that's super important. We haven't really thought about it. This immediate response, reaction out of it is going to carry us into the future as far as the Money in the Bank briefcase is concerned, and Tiffany Stratton, because that is her ticket to super stardom. But the way she cashes it in, she can really paint a heck of a picture here and tell a heck of a story and reestablish the Money in the Bank as a necessary, usable gimmick pay-per-view in comparison to what it's been the last few years. And so I'm looking most forward to Tiffy.
Absolutely, indeed. It is Tiffy time, but Clark, on Sunday, it will also be time for something else, won't it?
Well, I mean, we've got this other big thing going on today. We're interviewing. Do I say? Am I supposed to say it? How does this work?
I don't know.
Do I plug it? We got Missa Kate on Sunday Night Spotlight, a fellow Windy City legend. Cannot wait for it. We'll be recording that here shortly. It will be to all of you in the audience shortly. And if you don't enjoy it, that's your fault. That's just a mistake. We've
Sounds
got
like a you problem.
me, Shad, Drizzy,
Yes,
and
sir.
an absolute Chicago legend, the hottest free agent in all of women's professional wrestling, Missa Kate, on Sunday Night Spotlight. If you miss it, like I said, completely your fault.
And that will be 10 p.m. UK time on Sunday, 5 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Pacific. And that's about all the time zones I know. But yeah, make sure to check it out on the Wrestling Republic YouTube channel. No doubt about it. I'm excited to see
9
it, of
a.m.
course.
in Manila. Shout out, Coach.
Oh, okay. But yeah, of course, she recently departed the NWA, so that is certainly going to be an interesting thing to discuss. But it's an interesting weekend for wrestling. To Shard's point, we got Marigold tomorrow, Styles Marufuji, SmackDown tonight, also Collision tomorrow, right? We forget about that a lot, but that still exists, and it should be a fun show for sure. It's a great time to be a wrestling fan.
Whoa, what about
Summer is
Rampage,
about to get
guys?
out of hand.
What about
MLW.
Rampage? Actually, and
Rampage too.
What is the card? There's an independent card today too that has Athena and Masha Slamovich
Ooh,
on it.
it's just stacked.
Other than
Yeah,
that, there's
I
nothing
don't
to
know the
watch.
name of it.
Sporting weekend, isn't it? And then on Sundays, it's also the finals of the Euros as well. So England are gonna bring it home. Anyway, on that note, thank you, Clark. Thank you, Anthony. Thank you, Shard. We will be back tomorrow, same time, same place to talk a little bit of that SmackDown. See you guys. Peace.